Moving to this now, the Energy and Electricity Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, has told the Sunday Times that the government is close to procuring 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy. Ramokgopa says the approval from the National Treasury is still needed to build this power plant. Joining us is Professor Hartmut Winkler, who's an energy analyst, to give us his perspective. Prof, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, what are the primary challenges and opportunities in securing funding for such a project to build, 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power? And how likely is it that the National Treasury will approve this project?
Okay, we're talking of about 250 billion rand. And that's based on projects of similar size in Bangladesh and in France. So that's not the sort of money you just see lying around. In fact, the country would most probably need to secure a major loan, which would then also need to be serviced later and add to the cost. So this is just the construction cost. So this is not. That's why I'm a bit perplexed by what the Sunday Times has reported, and I wonder if that was how it was intended to be presented, because it's presented as though this is going to happen. If it happens, it's still got to go through a huge number of processes. It's not just the Treasury approval. It's far more than that. And personally, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where it will receive approval. But if it does, then that's the kind of cost we're looking at.
So if this article is anything to go by, there are comparisons being drawn. So how will the proposed nuclear power plant differ from what you know from the existing Koeberg plant in terms of technology, capacity and efficacy as well?
Yes, well, that's the thing. We don't actually know yet, because it could come from a number of bidders. Although, given how the past close relationship with the Russian Rosatom company, I suspect they are the front runners, because they're also the ones that tend to give loans to go along with the builds. But it will be compared to Koeberg, it will be a more modern design. It will be slightly bigger than Koeberg, but not much. So overall, it would account, if it were to come online, it would be 2,500 megawatts, which corresponds to roughly 2 stages of load shedding.
I want to get your insights into the latest nuclear technologies, which were mentioned by the Minister Ramokgopa. What makes these technologies more efficient and also cost-effective from what we've read?
Oh, I suspect he might be talking about the small modular reactors.
Yeah.
And there's a problem here in that we don't have any commercially available such products yet. There are a number of companies, mainly in the US, who are trying to get those done. South Africa had a go at it about 20 years ago and failed. Roughly 11 billion was wasted on the pebble bed modular reactor. In the end, it was stopped by the minister. So what this new technology that we're talking about is something along those lines. Okay, we are 10 years down the line, so the chances of success here are better. But as I say, these are not commercially available. Yeah. So I really don't know if they will be cheaper and what the other implications would be.
And speaking about implications, what are the potential environmental impacts of building and even operating this nuclear power plant? And how can these impacts be mitigated?
Yeah, well, that's going to be the first thing. We also don't know where it's going to be built. The 2 main spots that have been mentioned in the past is Tastepunt, which is near Jeffreys Bay, and almost next door to Koeberg. Now, the residents in those areas will probably have something to say about that, because as much as nuclear technology is a lot safer now than it would be, like, for example, we wouldn't have an accident caused by the same circumstances that caused Chernobyl happening at Koeberg. And the modern technologies have improved their safety. With the improved safety has also come improved costs. There is, however, still this issue that you're going to be left with radioactive waste. And that's what's tended to happen, is certainly at Koeberg, is that the most of it has just been kept on site. With the idea that eventually somebody will take it, but I don't know if that and when that will happen. Some of the other stuff gets exported to Namakwaland, where it's basically just buried. But that's not the high-level waste. That's the rest. But the danger of a leak is that, well, we saw it happen at Fukushima. Although, again, Fukushima is an older design. We wouldn't get the same kind of accident happening. Yeah. But if there was an accident happening, it would be disastrous, especially because Koeberg is so close to Cape Town. So that's something that they would probably consider when they look at a site. But other than that, it's a danger of leaks that might contaminate the water, for example. Usually these plants are next to water sources because they need water for cooling.
But Prof, the problems at Eskom have been well documented. And given Eskom's past struggles with management as well as corruption, what measures can be taken to ensure that this new plant is managed effectively, but also transparently?
Yes, well, transparency, I think, is one of the big problems that Eskom is struggling with, especially with Koeberg. Now, Koeberg is now undergoing a life extension exercise. Its lifespan was intended to go up to this year. So its license also is going to be expire, in fact, this month. But they're in the process of trying to get that renewed for another 20 years. For that to be renewed, they needed to do a whole lot of improvements and replacements at the site. Now, we were told 3 years ago that this was going to cost 20 billion rand and it was going to take 10 months. We are now 3 years down the line and we're still not quite finished yet. They're telling us, okay, September, maybe December, it's going to be finished. But what would really be important is that we should be told exactly how much this upgrading exercise will cost in the end, because it's definitely not going to be just 20 billion. So if you do get anyone from Eskom that's willing to give you a figure that's on air, that would be nice.
Well, admittedly, we still don't know much about this project, but to reflect, South Africa has been load shedding free for over, 100 days now. How will this new nuclear power plant help even sustain and possibly extend this period of uninterrupted power supply going into the future, really?
Not at all, because it usually takes about 10 years to complete a nuclear plant. In France, if I can give you an example, France is hoping to bring the only plant they've constructed in the last 10 years or so at home online this year. That construction was started in 2007, so that's 17 years it's taken them. Okay, it can go quicker, but that's what we're looking at. So if we are going to consider nuclear, and I'm not saying it should be thrown out of thrown out completely, but one needs a proper plan that looks at all the options and costs them properly. So that's why I'm also a bit amazed that this should come out now, because right now, Dr. Ramokgopa's ministry is in the process of working out a plan for the coming 20 years or so. And that plan, under Minister Mantashe, we had a draft. It was widely rejected. Yeah. Interesting enough, the option that Minister Mantashe gave, he had 4 options basically, and nuclear was not the favored one. So that's also a bit strange that as much as that plan was flawed, we still need a plan which is actually convincing, which is sort of widely consulted, properly costed, and adopted, which would tell us that nuclear is going to be part of the energy mix 20 years down the line or so. Right now, we don't have that.
Professor Hartmut Winkler, thank you so much for your time speaking to us about the potential economic benefits of this new nuclear build and prospects of it happening as well.